Raise your hand if from the Zen'in clan massacre to now you feel like Maki has been nerfed. Alright, me too. Also, if you raised your hand, like actually raised your hand, I like you. You're my favorite. Don't tell the others. So I actually have an explanation for why Maki feels like she has been nerfed. Gege pretty much spelled it out for us in this chapter, even though this chapter was odd and I was really hoping that the sword would be best boy Gyu's and not Tanjiro's. I mean, look at Gyu. Look at him! By the way, before I get questions, I'm not sure where you can still buy the Gyu figure. A lot of these are pre-orders. My friend Mitch got it for me for my birthday. It's from a series called Look Up Figures. Just be super careful if you intend to buy Look Up Figures anywhere because there are a lot of fakes. If you want a good place to buy Look Up Figures, JJK ones especially, Entertainment Earth has them, and you can go to ee.toy/esper to help support the channel and get 10% off anything in stock. No pre-order discount though. And use this code to get free shippings on orders over $39. This video is not sponsored by them, but I am affiliated with them and I get a bit of money when you buy something through my link. You know the deal. I figured at least one person will be curious enough to go looking for the figure, so I'll make your life easier. I'll put the links for the JJK lookup figures and the Demon Slayer ones in the description. Anyway, back to the video. So we're introduced to this strange man that is seemingly like a Pokemon. His dialogue from when he scoured all over the colony was him parroting katana, but in like an old man voice. And we'll get to the Kappa looking man later. Not that Kappa, this Kappa. That's like a whole nother thing I'm not yet ready to approach. But this swordsman, like everyone reincarnated, seems to be singularly focused on one thing. For this guy, he wanted a sword, and when he saw Maki swing hers in order to protect Noritoshi, he absolutely positively lost it. He in that moment could only think of the sword, and honestly real fucking rude for stealing Maki's sword while she's super incredibly injured. But that moment is quickly truncated by the sheer devastating energy that he emanated when he held a katana. It seems as well that originated from him simply holding a sword. This odd comical man transformed into a brutal swordsman in mere moments, despite the sword actually resisting him. There's a lot to break down here, but I want to go over the sword rejecting Daido, a non-sorcerer, maybe being incarnated, and what really is the difference between Maki and Toji. I think that it's both very cool and very depressing that the sword seemingly has a mind of its own. I always thought that Mai put herself into the sword and that the sword wasn't just an object the same way her bullets were just an object created with her cursed energy. But seeing it in practice is actually heartbreaking. If you recall, and I sure shit won't let you forget, that there was one thing and one thing only that Mai wanted. It was to stay by her sister's side, and that will transcended her death and was imbued into the will of the sword that she created herself for her twin sister. And Mai lives on in that sword, and Gege was kind enough to remind us about that with the rejection of Daido as the wielder. This also means that Mai's will transcends, or at least rivals, the strength of the will of this ancient swordsman who was willing to pay the price to transcend death into a new world for the chance to wield another katana again. If you were having a good day, well, you're not anymore. I'm not sorry. We suffer together. This incarnation is so interesting. There are so many vast implications of a possible non-sorcerer being incarnated. The only one we really have an idea of how they were resurrected is Sukuna, who was spread amongst Japan within his 20 fingers turned cursed objects. Kenjaku told us that he had certain people consume cursed objects just like Yuji to turn them into vessels. Not to mention, he made the vessels himself, but we won't get into that. So, two things about that. This means that the formations of the cursed objects Kenjaku was 100% responsible for. And is Daido someone heavenly restricted as well, or a normal person in terms of having an average amount of cursed energy, but having incredible physical prowess like Yuji, but just translated into sword fighting? While there is also a possibility of Daido being heavenly restricted, and there's a couple of things pointing to this, like him not using cursed energy and not being able to see Naoya, I think the thing tipping me off that he is not someone heavenly restricted and is just an extraordinary human is that Naoya was able to recognize his presence and look in his direction first when he and Rokujushi appeared at the same time. But even if he wasn't heavenly restricted, he is giving us an insight into what powers these physical attacks and what makes them powerful. Bloodlust. It seems like the desire for battle is what fuels those that are physically gifted. If we think about it in this regard, Maki is strong. We know Maki is strong from the clan killing feat that she pulled off. So what's the difference between now and then? This sounds cheesy, but motivation. Maki has already achieved her goal. She destroyed everything Zen'in clan related per Mai's request, and that left a void in her. Think of it this way. Have you ever grinded and worked so hard for something, and as you go through every single day working and seeing your metaphorical progress bar fill up, and you just feel a small sense of accomplishment, and when you finally reach that goal that you've set for yourself, you're incredibly happy. But then you spend days, maybe weeks, faffing about, not knowing what to do with yourself. And I have to say, there is absolutely nothing wrong with taking the time to enjoy your wins. I think that you should most definitely do that. But I think that Maki is at that stage right now where her direction is depleted because her life's biggest goal has been accomplished. Yes, getting Gojo out of the box is necessary and clearly a cause that she is devoted to, but her heart laid with the mission that she had from Mai. So we are now at a portion at Maki's growth and development where she has no bloodlust to carry her through. Well, the first thing I said was a little bit misleading. It doesn't just have to be bloodlust. It just has to be a strong enough emotion to carry her forward. When Maki asks what the difference between her and Toji is, the answer, are you ready for a deeply depressing answer? Just kidding. You don't need to answer that. Of course you are. You read Jujutsu Kaisen weekly. You're acclimated to pain. The answer is that Toji never got closure on the hate that he felt for his clan. He carried that hate on through his whole life. Toji never got closure on the way that his family treated him. He lived his life around the ways in which he was mistreated. The only way to get the full impact of this is for me to read you the full quote. This is Toji Fushiguro's dying thoughts. This uneasiness. I don't work for free. That's what I would always say before making a run for it. But now, the awakened power of the Limitless stands before me. He's probably the greatest sorcerer alive. I wanted to discredit it, to crush it. The pinnacle of Jujutsu world and the Zen'in family. I wanted this for self-affirmation, and I deviated from my true self. At that point, I had already lost. Toji carried his desire to his death, or maybe far more apt, this hidden desire to get even with the world that looked down on him, shunned him, and abused him for so long, put him in an early grave. But it nonetheless fueled his desires to stick it to that system. Even though his personal fight wasn't with Gojo, he wanted to dismantle the things that Gojo embodied, which ironically enough, he and Gojo probably stood on the same side of the fence on this issue and would have made great allies, but that's only after the Riko Amanai incident. Who knows if Gojo would have grown up to be a piece of shit adult without those events? I don't particularly think so, but it doesn't matter. What does matter is that we've identified how Maki and Toji are different. Toji was never able to fulfill his dream of dismantling the system that othered him. Not for lack of trying, but instead he left it behind and tried to make something new, which is all well and good unless you never really dealt with the things that really harmed you. And I don't know, you take on the greatest and strongest sorcerer of the generation. Tinfoil hat time. My theory is this: the fact that Maki achieved her goals made her weaker. From what we see with Daido, strong desires fuel those that are physically gifted. Daido's desire to simply wield a katana and fight is strong. Like many of the ancient incarnations, his desires are simple. Find katana, swing katana. It doesn't get much simpler than that, really. And the bloodlust behind those desires are so strong, it overwhelms everyone present. And that is everything at the crux of it all. Daido is here to let us know that Maki needs to find a strong motivator so that she can advance into the next step of her evolution, because swordsmanship and heavenly restriction are not mutually exclusive. In fact, they are very much integrated with one another since Mai gifted her with that weapon. But Maki stands at a unique crossroads. She is one of the two that we know who are heavily restricted with physical strength, and the only one out of those two to have fulfilled their deepest desires. And to answer Maki's question, what is the difference between me and Toji? The difference is that she got closure no matter how unconventional it was, and Toji never did. And that underlying wish of always wanting to stick it to his clan while the cost to his mental health was large drove his power along with the experience and the combat prowess he had. How many times have you done things just simply out of spite fueling you? So the big question is, with her whole family gone, the one person she cared about dead, and the world falling apart around her, what will Maki find to give her strength that she once had? And looking at Daido, it doesn't have to be something bad, but it has to be something that Maki truly has a deep desire for and resonates within her. So I've decided two things for these videos, by the way, because ultimately making them shorter will help me churn them out quicker for you and allow me to help focus on the main point that I want to make. So I'll be trying to pare down from my 3,000 plus word essays that I've been writing every week and reducing them down to about half that. But as I write this, I want you to know that I'm already over that by a lot. Anyway, the other thing is that the last part of the videos will now be always quick thoughts I had about the chapter that don't necessarily fit into the main video, so to speak. So here we go. I really enjoy the way Noritoshi and Maki interact with each other. Maki coming back to save Noritoshi and Noritoshi being concerned for her is very, very endearing. And if you think about it, these two didn't really get to spend much time with each other before this, and they became very quick allies. It will be a really sad parting to watch when Maki has to leave the colony and Noritoshi has to stay. Next, what the is up with this Kappa looking guy? It seems like while Daido fights Naoya, this Kappa guy wants to fight Maki in his simple domain. And remember that simple domains to ancient sorcerers are more so used to create a set of rules for the other person to follow rather than eliminate them with a one-hit kill. And funnily enough, swordless Maki is probably his best opponent. And lastly, good boy Noritoshi survives one more week. Let's hope that these two new people can be allies to him while he stays in the Sakurajima colony and Maki moves on to the next one. Fingers crossed. He definitely needs all the allies he can get. My 193 video. I was working on it. I almost had the rough cut finished and I scrapped the whole thing because I'm a crazy person and I want it to be as good as possible. This is why I make weekly YouTube videos, is because I have a deadline and I get them out and churn them out very quickly. And if you let me work on things for too long, perfectionist. Anyway, it will be out. I'm almost done writing it. If you enjoyed this video and you're not yet subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. And while you're down there, hit the like button and let me know down in the comments any of your thoughts. And if you want more JJK content, here is a video that YouTube recommends. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.